It's Tiffany's Content, and we still have some flooding going on in the USA. We're going to talk about that, and we have a lot of ice still going up that northeast coast. We're going to get right into it with the satellite imagery, and you can just see all that bubbling up in the Gulf Coast, right in Texas near Louisiana, all that rain and thunderstorms and lightning coming in, heavy rain. The blue is more colder clouds, and as it get more yellow and orange and reds, it's more warmer clouds, and definitely thunderstorms and lightnings is in those clouds. And you can see that zoomed in here. It is a lot of extensive rainfall, definitely heavy convection coming in. You can just see it all coming in right through Texas and Louisiana and going up into Arkansas, definitely Mississippi and Tennessee as well. Definitely going to come in on that, southeast as well. But take a look at it, how it's just, hammering Louisiana. Definitely a lot of flooding in there, lightning and thunderstorms. And this can be tornadic activity as well. So just make sure that you're aware of that. Let's take a look at the map and see what's going on for today. And you can see all that heavy rainfall is right down in the Gulf Coast. Still have that ice and freezing rain up in the Midwest there by Iowa, going into the Northeast, definitely by Maine. It's definitely icy over there. I'm going to show you some warnings and watches. And then, of course, you have that lightning and thunderstorms in the yellow in the Gulf Coast. So it's a lot going on. You're still going to see that snow coming in on the West Coast, as well as that, ice and freezing rain throughout the next few days. And of course, that Gulf Coast is still going to be sprucing up some storms. Okay, so just be aware, it can also be tornadic like activity when you see all this activity down in the Gulf Coast, where that warm air is meeting with that cold air. And you can just see it here on the current watches. It's a lot of green, and all that green there is flooding activity going all the way from Texas through Louisiana, Mississippi, even Alabama, Georgia, getting some pieces in there, Tennessee, definitely Arkansas, and going right up into Kentucky in the Midwest. And of course, you're going to have that winter activity still going on in the Northeast. Up there in Maine, it's icy roads, freezing fog in Wyoming, and avalanches in Idaho. But take a look at what it feels like today. Look at that 60s down there in the Gulf Coast, but that's where all those storms are starting to spruce up, meeting up with that cold air, causing lightning and thunderstorms and very severe activity. Overall, it's starting to warm up everywhere. Look at the Midwest, 20 instead of negative 20. So we're definitely going to have more rainfall as well. This is just for today. So the most rainfall in the Gulf Coast will be today and tomorrow. So look at that. It's just a lot of rain going up that northeast coast, definitely taking a toll on Louisiana, going into Mississippi, and of course Texas, where it starts. And the west coast is definitely getting hammered. There's going to be an atmospheric river coming through as early as this weekend over on that side, and definitely going to be meeting up with the Gulf Coast system, the rain, and definitely going to be taking a toll on that Midwest and Northeast as it comes through. But this is a lot of rain for the next few days with everything we have going on, melting down and causing ice storms. Now let's take a look at this. This is all the action for today, and you can see all that red there is that lightning, that thunderstorm, that heavy rain, even on the west coast getting flooded over there with that atmospheric river headed over. So just make sure that you're aware. These are the hazards that's going on today. You can see it's still heavy rain on the west coast coming out of Washington, going into California. Definitely Alaska still have that cold air and precipitation. But look at the Gulf Coast already flooded, okay? And more heavy rain coming. You're going to see excessive rainfall coming through. Of course, you're going to have lightning and thunderstorm warnings, and also flash flood warnings, okay? This is a lot of things going on, and of course, it is pointing right at the Gulf Coast. Look at that red. That red means it has a higher chance of more excessive rainfall, flash flood warnings, thunderstorms and lightning, and also tornadic activity can be involved in that. Let's take a look at the action. You can see it in the action right there. All that snow and that blue and that winter activity is coming from that west coast, meeting up in the Midwest, causing a little ice in that orange to be ice, and then it's going into the Midwest. But all that green is that rain and that precipitation out of the Gulf Coast that's going up that northeast and causing that ice storm in Maine. Let's take a look at the satellite imagery, and you can just see it here. That blue is more, of the clouds, okay? Definitely clouds, foggy, dense clouds, and that white is more ice and that gray, so that means there's cold clouds in there. And look at all that ice, an inch of ice in Maine. That red is 1 inch of ice. That is dangerous, that is slippery, that is very treacherous driving conditions, okay? Make sure you are checking your local listings. Let's look at it on this image right here. This is the current conditions, and all that green is that slippery ice, and that blue is that slippery ice and that winter activity with that snow. So just make sure that you're aware. It's in the clouds, you can see it. Definitely cold clouds, definitely all that, white and that gray is, ice coming in. Icy clouds, definitely cold clouds enough to freeze all that winter activity in mid-air. And you can see right down in San Antonio, it's all coming from there. This is the excessive rainfall that we have. We're going right into the watches and warning and the threats and the timing. So make sure that you're reading these very closely. I'm going to go through and run through a few of them now. That was, Texas. This is going right into Lake Charles, Louisiana. Right there on the edge, you're going to see a lot of flood watches down there. Remember, 12 inches can wipe those cars away. Don't drown. Turn around, okay? If you see flooding going on, turn around. There's dense fog and light icing. The one ice I was telling you about in the clouds, that's happening all in Kansas, and it's going up, the Midwest towards the northeast. So it's still a lot of activity going on. It's still foggy over there, icy as well. And look at that freezing fog. We still have freezing fog, and this is in Wyoming, okay? So near Cheyenne, Wyoming, you're going to see a lot of freezing fog advisories, okay? It's less than a half a mile visibility, okay? You cannot see while you're driving. In the next 48 hours, it's still going to be up to 2 to 8 inches of snow coming down right there, going up that northeast coast, starting out in the southeast, but definitely taking a toll as it comes through and whip through, from Washington. So let's take a look at today and see where all that low pressure is. See, right there by Texas, Louisiana, going up into Tennessee and definitely into Kentucky, where all that Midwest action is happening as well. So that low pressure is trying to meet up with all that activity in the Midwest. And you can see on the west coast that atmospheric river is trying to come in, all that low pressures, that snow and that rain, and definitely mixed precipitation coming through. You can just see it. Take a look. All that precipitation is coming through, and it has not stopped yet. It is still coming through along with that snow. So all that high pressure over there is that snow, and that rain is the low pressure coming through, and it's going to whip through just like on the east coast. You're going to see on the east coast that low pressure is just going riding right up that northeast coast, definitely along with that snow in Maine, and bringing that ice. See, that pink is that ice, and it's headed over in that Maine area. So be aware, that's an inch of ice. That is very dangerous, okay? Make sure you're checking your local listings. So let's take a look at the GFS run, and you can see all that lightning and thunderstorms here. Right in the Gulf Coast, coming out of Texas, Louisiana, and going up the northeast coast. This is going into the next few days. We're going to stop it towards the end of the week, but you saw all that ice going into Maine. Look at this, more activity coming in towards the end of the week, and one more snowstorm in the Midwest. So it's not over. We still have flooding in the USA. We still have a lot of winter activity, and it's definitely icy up in Maine. Make sure you're commenting below. Let's react to this crazy weather. Make sure that you're staying tuned. It's Tiffany's Content. Thank you. Like, share, subscribe.